A very good day to the chairperson. Thank you for the introduction. And firstly, I would like to congratulate and thank you to the president, Professor Kashif Malik, for the successfully organizing the 21st Annual Congress, Pakistan Society of Hepatology. And again, with all the organizing committee, I would like to express my utmost gratitude for the very kind invitation. I was given a task to discuss about hepatorenal syndrome, standard of care, and new tools. I think we all know that the prevalence of AKI in patients with decompensated liver cirrhosis up to 50% or 53% presented in our ward. And 1 month mortality of this patient with AKI is up to 44%, something that nearly half of our patients will be dead in 30 days when they come into the ward, something that very important facts that we have to bear in mind. And the main etiologies for AKI in patients with liver cirrhosis are prerenal AKI and acute tubular necrosis, which is by far the commonest, septicemia and hypovolemic shock. And the two main causes of prerenal AKI, high hypovolemia and HRS-AKI, I'm going to talk about more after this. And of course, we all know many causes of acute tubular necrosis, ranging from the drugs and bile cast nephropathy and patient with many forms of glomerulonephritis, in particular membranous proliferative nephritis in patients with hep-B/C, and the post-renal obstructions are far less common causes of AKI in patients with liver cirrhosis. These are the new definition of the HRS-AKI. In the past can be divided hepatorenal syndrome type 1 and type 2. In type 1, a doubling of serum creatinine to concentration of more than 2.5 milligram per deciliter within 2 weeks. But the new name is HRS-AKI when there is increment of serum creatinine of more than 0.3 milligram per deciliter within 2 days, or an increment of serum creatinine more than 1.5 times from the baseline. And baseline is the previous 3 months from the current presentation. And of course, there's no response to the diuretic withdrawal and 2 days fluid challenge with kilogram per kilogram of albumin 20-25%, cirrhosis with ascites, of course, an absence of shock and no drugs or any nephrotoxin drugs, and no sign of any structural damage to the kidneys, with the absence of proteinuria, hematuria, and of course, normal findings on the ultrasound. So these are new tools for the diagnosis of HRS type 1 in the past, and now called HRS-AKI. For the type 2, really, in the past, we call the gradual increment of the serum creatinine, not meeting the type 1, but nowadays, hepatorenal syndrome, acute kidney diseases, estimated GFR of less than 60 ml per minute, less than 3 months in the absence of any potential causes of kidney disease, and percentage of increase in the serum creatinine of less than 50% using last available value of the outpatient serum creatinine within 3 months. So essentially, the HRS of AKD replacing HRS type 2. I think to repeat again, the new criteria or tool for diagnosis of hepatorenal syndrome, nowadays AKI HRS, a new diagnostic criteria, is patient with liver cirrhosis and ascites, diagnosis of AKI according to International Club of Ascites Acute Kidney Injury. Again, no response after 2 consecutive days of diuretic withdrawal and plasma volume expander with albumin. There is no shock, no recent or previous use of nephrotoxin drugs, and of course, no structural damage to the kidney. And there are a few unmet needs, for example, the markers from the urine, which can be useful. Classically, urinary sodium and fractional excretion of sodium and urine osmolality have also limitation, but the urinary neutrophil gelatinous associated lipocalin is not easily available, and it's not available in my center, and also have limitation. I think we all know the factors involved in pathogenesis of hepatorenal syndrome. You can see here the patient, we got liver cirrhosis that leading to both hypertension, having a splanchnic arterial vasodilatation, reduction of the vascular resistance with the effective arterial hypovolemia, subsequently activation RAS system, further giving pressure to the kidney, leading to renal vasoconstriction, and also activation many inflammatory markers or mediators, massive release of cytokine chemokines, and further burden to the kidneys, increment of the prostaglandins, and leading to the acute kidney injuries. And prevention, of course, is better than cure, and prevention of the hepatorenal syndrome. You can see here early identification and treatment of infection is very important. The use of not only antibiotics, but also albumin is very important with patients with SBP, prevention of SBP using appropriate antibiotics, and possibly the use of pentocephylline to decrease incidence of a kidney injury in patients with alcoholic hepatitis possible. And of course, the use of intravenous albumin to improve circulation after the large volume paracentesis is very important. I think we all know this beautiful study many years ago, randomized trial, the use of combination intravenous antibiotics plus day 1 and day 3 albumin 1.5 gram per kilogram a day and 1 gram per kilogram at day 3 really prevent the incidence of hepatorenal syndrome, of course, the mortality of patient hepatorenal syndrome, and this becoming standard of care to anywhere supposed to be for the treatment of the SBP. And this is most beneficial for those who get bilirubin of more than 4 milligram per deciliter or serum creatinine more than 1 milligram per deciliter. Ladies and gentlemen, albumin is a very multifunctional protein and been used many years ago, and it has a very complex structures with varieties of oncotic properties and non-oncotic properties or biological function. And we all know that in liver diseases, albumin function is several times less than its concentration. And we all know that factors that involve in the pathogenesis of HRS and the roles of albumin and vasoconstrictors are very important. As you can see here in the studies, the use of in the prospective non-randomized trial, again, many years ago, 21 HRS patients using albumin and terlipressin, far better in terms of effectiveness than measuring or improvement of the serum creatinine and survival as opposed to patient using terlipressin alone. So this is remarkable achievement since the study for the up-to-date management of patient with HRS. If you look at here, comparing again randomized control showing using terlipressin by continuous intravenous infusion is better tolerated in patients with HRS as compared to the bolus. You can see here adverse effect in the green bar here. Infusion is better tolerated than patient receiving bolus terlipressin in management of the HRS. Again, the AKI HRS also responded to terlipressin and albumin and in fact improved the outcome for patients with liver transplant, as you can see here, also recently studied last year. What about vasoconstrictors for HRS AKI? There are few of them available. For those who are not available using terlipressin, that's also midodrine and octreotide, as well as norepinephrine. Norepinephrine with the albumin for HRS as effective as terlipressin, shown in the small control trial in prospective studies. Also terlipressin in the acute liver failure, or which is far more effective than noradrenaline. What about the midodrine, which is an alpha-1 agonist drug plus octreotide and albumin infusion, also effective in treating the patient type 1 or AKI HRS, and a small randomized trial terlipressin with albumin was significantly more effective than midodrine plus octreotide and albumin in terms of improvement of renal function, strikingly 70 versus 29% respectively in this study. The response for the pharmacological treatment of HRS in general, median 3-month survival is about 30%, and recurrence of HRS occurs in less than 20%, and retreatment is usually effective. Predictors of the reversal of the HRS, as you can see here, the most likely benefit moderate renal failure with serum creatinine of less than 3, or severe renal failure of serum creatinine between 3 to 5, as opposed to a patient who get advanced renal failure, serum creatinine more than 7 milligrams per deciliter would be unlikely to get benefit or survive using these modality treatments of the terlipressin. So the summary and recommendation from the EASL vasoconstrictors and albumins are recommended in all patients with the current definition of AKI HRS stage 1A and should be expeditiously treated with vasoconstrictors, and terlipressin plus albumin should be considered as a first-line treatment for the HRS AKI. The albumin solution, 20%, should be used at a dose of 20 to 40 grams per day. And also noradrenaline can be an alternative to telepressin in the case of limited availability of telepressin. And of course, based on the new definition of HRS and AKI, complete response to the treatment should be defined by the final serum creatinine value of 0.3 milligram per deciliter or 26.5 micromole per liter in various labs. While partial response, AKI stage, serum creatinine more than or equal to 0.3 milligram per deciliter or 26.5 micromole from the baseline. And in the cases of recurrence of HRS AKI upon treatment cessation, a repeat course therapy should be given. So again, I want to repeat here, prevention of KI in cirrhosis is very important. The first line, optimally treat the patient with upper GI bleed infections and avoiding large volume paracentesis without covering with albumin infusion. The use of albumin together with antibiotics clearly reduce the incidence of HRS-AKI and improve survival of patients with SBP. And the use of intravenous albumin infection in patients with cirrhosis and bacterial infection other than SBP neither prevent HRS-AKI nor improve survival, is something that we have to put a note here. Now, there are several guidance statements that I would like to highlight to share with you. The treatment of choice, again, for HRS-AKI is vasoconstrictor drugs in combination with albumin. The preferred choice is telepressin, along with albumin infusion. In the settings not available, no epinephrine should be given. If neither can be administered, a trial of oral midodrine 5 to 10 milligram every 3 times a day combination with octreotide every 8 hours or 50 microgram per hour infusion may be considered, and yet the efficacy for the management of this HRS patient is low. Patient, of course, need closely monitored with possible side effect. Vasoconstrictors, particularly in elderly patients without the diagnosis of myocardial ischemia. Vasoconstrictor can precipitate ischemia and also pulmonary edema. Response to telepressin and or norepinephrine is defined by the reduction of creatinine to less than 1.5 milligram per deciliter or return to within 0.3 milligram per deciliter of baseline over the next 2 weeks. In patients whose creatinine remains at or above the pre-treatment level over 4 days with the maximum tolerated doses of the vasoconstrictor, for example, therapy can be considered to be discontinued. Now, recurrence is happen, and of course, retreatment should be initiated, and all patients with cirrhosis and AKI should be considered also for urgent liver transplant evaluation, given the short-term mortality, even though those who respond to the vasoconstrictors, and initiation of renal replacement therapy in conjunction consultation with nephrologists in patients who are not candidate for liver transplant must be made with a clear endpoint in mind. So how to make a decision to treat HRS-AKI? This is very simple using 4 metrics, and this patient need category, very urgent, very important. Do that by giving, of course, as I said to you early on, vasoconstrictors with the albumin infusion. And multidisciplinary team approach management, including initiation of vasoconstrictor therapy, renal replacement, in conjunction with negotiation or discussion with nephrologists, critical care ICV specialists, the ICU specialists, and also transplant surgeon. And possibly simultaneous liver kidney transplantation may be necessary for patients who are not expected to recover kidney function post-transplantation. These are interesting. I pick up from the Twitters from the Joe Toff and or Kidney Boy does point of care ultrasound change management of hepatorenal syndrome. You can look here, 53 patient assessed either fluid depleted, replaced by IV albumin, improved 40% of AKI. For those who get echocardiogram to determine volume status, they got fluid expanded, and again giving IV furosemide, a function improved in 30% of patients. With patient with intra-abdominal hypertension, paracentesis, AKI improved in 50%, and suggested that point of care ultrasound-based assessment of volume status in patient with liver cirrhotic reveal very heterogeneity among themselves, and unguided volume expansion in this patient may lead to a premature diagnosis, hepatorenal syndrome type 1 or HHS-AKI as a new terminology. So I think all the further details of this diseases management of the particular hepatorenal syndrome, you can see here fresh from the oven from the hepatology published very recently. With that, I thank you so much again for the kind invitation. I wish myself be in Lahore at this time, and then hopefully this meeting will be successful. Thank you for your attention.